Hi, church. Today I want to share with you a scripture about joy, and then we're just going to spend a bit of time reflecting on it. And this scripture you will have almost certainly heard before is in James chapter 1, verses 2 through 5. And this is how it goes. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. I love this scripture. This was a scripture that it became one of my key life verses, that whenever we face trials, now it doesn't say if you face trials, it says whenever. So Christians, non-Christians, we all face trials, but it's not as though you become a Christian and then everything becomes easy. In fact, in some ways it becomes more of a challenge because we're now trying to live by God's standards rather than the world. So trials will come, and surely we're in one of those massive trials right now. For some, it may be much more of a trial to you than others when you've got relationship struggles and, job and financial concerns. Those are big trials. But regardless of whether it's COVID linked or not, we all have trials to some degree or another, small and big at different times in our life. But it says when we know those trials, we know that it's the testing of our faith develops perseverance. And it says when we face those trials, we are to consider it joy. How can we enjoy going through those trials? Well, if you think back to the last couple of days, what we've been looking at joy is just delighting in the fact that God is part of your life. He's your closest friend. He's your support. He's your foundation. And so when you face those trials, those difficulties, what it does is it takes your eyes off yourself because you can't fix this stuff, and it lifts them to God, where you realize that even though these trials might not vanish and we can pray that God would take them away, those trials often are there for a time so that we can rely on God, we can fix our eyes back on Him rather than it being on ourselves where we try and fix everything ourselves. And what's great about that is the testing of our faith develops perseverance, and perseverance must finish its work so that we may be mature and complete. You see, God allows trials in our life so that we can develop maturity, so that we can develop perseverance. And where does that maturity and perseverance come from? It comes from Him, as we abide in Him when we go through those trials. And it's by abiding in Him, by getting our strength from Him, that we get joy. So that's something to think of while you're going through the different struggles you've got at the moment. Don't just focus on the struggles and how you can't fix them and get miserable, but focus on God. Take your struggles, take your trials to Him, so that as you abide in Him, He would give you joy as you learn to persevere and mature in these things. And then here's the brilliant bit, the second part is it says, if any of you lacks wisdom, so if any of you just find it so difficult in your trial that you have no idea what to do, then go to God and say, God, and be honest, God, I am stuck, I am hurting, I am broken. God, would you give me wisdom of how to deal with this situation, how to deal with my emotions, my responses? God, would you give me wisdom? And when God gives you wisdom, when you ask for wisdom, here's the great bit. He says, God gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. So Take your struggles and your trials, go to God, ask that he helps you with them, ask that he would end those trials, but in his time he will end them. And whilst you're in them, God will give you maturity, he will give you perseverance, so that you then may seek him and receive his wisdom. I hope that's of help today. God bless.